Why, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Voice of the Rings. I'm hosting guide Zollin Ironshield, and today we're going to do a breakdown and review, and in my opinion, of episode 2 of the Rings of Power series on Amazon. Alright, my friends, so, just like I said in episode 1, if you didn't watch my episode 1 review, you can go check that out first if you want to hear that. Let's keep it civil in the conversations there, guys. So, I just like to put a little disclaimer at the beginning. I would love to hear you guys what you liked or what you really disliked, or why you totally love it or why you totally hate it, okay? But give me what you actually disliked about it, okay? So for example, I used to have a lot of friends who would tell me they really disliked the Hobbit trilogy, right? And I have a prediction that a lot more people are gonna like the Hobbit trilogy now, just a prediction. But a lot of people didn't like it, but they'd always say I didn't like it. And they would never give me the reason why. So, guys, if you're gonna have something you dislike, make sure you're not just disliking it because it's the popular thing to do, or make sure you're not liking it because it's the popular thing to do. Really break it down in your mind. That's what I'm gonna do today here for you, for my opinion on this and my breakdown of what we're gonna do about this episode. But make sure you definitely, tell me what did you really dislike about it? What were the exact scenes, exact wording, exact parts? What were the parts that you really loved about it? Visuals, scenes, parts, all those kind of things, right? So that's what I'd like to hear in the comments. And don't attack each other, don't fight each other. Let's be civil. Again, I'm someone who I liked parts of it, I really disliked other parts of it, and see that little counter over there? So what we're gonna do today on that little counter is, and a lot of us sit in the middle, right? We're judging it as Tolkien fans, right? And I've tried really hard before watching these to make sure I didn't get any outside input, because I want to just have my knowledge of Tolkien and then how I felt about the show when I watched it, right? I've already told you my views if you watched my previous videos in the past on, I'm hoping they just don't bring stuff in from our world. So far, these first 2 episodes, a little spoiler. Again, there will be spoilers, guys, in this review, so make sure you've seen them already. Or if you don't care and you just want to hear my opinion first, if they're kind of worth the watch, that kind of thing, right? Then you can. But off the top of my head, I feel like if you already have Amazon or something, they're worth to watch. If you're someone that doesn't really spend the money, maybe you want to wait. It's, again, watch my review, then you decide for yourself. I'll have a little thing over there. I'm going to have lore correct, which is kind of like the big plus. I really liked something about the show I enjoyed, will be standalone. I just enjoyed that scene. I enjoyed that part. I enjoyed that music. Again, this music's from Lord of the Rings Online you're hearing. I cannot play the music from here. We'll get copyrighted. We're going to mostly do still scenes, too. All these are going to be still images. I'm not going to be playing it, right? You're going to have to go watch it yourself if you want to watch it yourself. And if I dislike it, something I really disliked, I was like, I didn't like that. And then horrible lore change, okay? That's something just oh, why did they do that, right? And if you've seen my episode 1, my biggest thing that drives me crazy is the personality change with Galadriel, right? Where they made her obsessed and you know what I mean? Oh, excuse me. A little alarm clock tried to pop up on me. So yeah, I would just be those are the kind of stuff just think about that, all right? Anyway, those are going to be our little categories as we go through right now. We'll go through step by step. I'll talk about things with stuff like that. So just remember, be nice to each other, be civil. Remember, we're all Tolkien fans, and that's why a lot of people, when they do reviews, they don't show their face, right? I want you to remember that I'm a real person, right? I'm not just a computer typing, right? So I like to show you my real face, so you know that I'm just a person giving you my opinions, the things I liked and disliked, and I'm going to be very honest about it and straight from my views, not from what anyone else says, okay? So, let's get into this. Let's start with the beginning here, the little intro, right? They don't show it at the beginning in episode 1, they showed it in episode 2. I actually really like this intro. I think it's really cool. The music is pretty darn nice. I like the music, it's pretty good. So, I do like this one a lot, though. I really like the intro. Again, some people are like, oh, it's like Game of Thrones. Well, let's be fair. There's a lot of new series that are fantasy series that have this type of some kind of cool, moving, really up close thing. And Game of Thrones doesn't have monopoly on that, right? So, but yeah, I really like this a lot. It's really cool. I like the 2 trees and doing a really cool effect. And probably using different things and stuff. So anyway, let's move along. And then it morphs into the rings of power, right? Which I just think it's just so cool. It's really, really cool. So we'll pop through this a little bit here. All right, there we go. Put a little power thing right in the middle of my video, but we're back. So yes, I really like the The theme music here at the beginning was decent. It wasn't the best in the world, but I liked it, so I'm going to give it a like, and I really like this whole effect, so it's actually going to get a double like. So this intro, I really like this intro. I thought it was really well done, and I really like the intro. So, very cool. Has some very cool effects, the way they did stuff. I thought it was just cool. It made me think of the Rings of Power, you know, with the creation of making the sand come together. So I thought it was really well done. I really like that. So anyway, let's move into the next things here. So we got the stars, which are a big thing for elves, right? So that's a little nod at that. And then we go into this again. If you watched my other review already, which I did today, because I'm doing both review videos for you, you can go watch it if you didn't already watch it. But I'm going to continue off that one, is why why I'm saying that, because I'm going to continue off it. This is all lore inaccurate, right? This is bad. She jumped in the water. She's stranded now in the middle of the ocean. It makes no sense she would do this. She never went to Valinor in the first place. So she's got to get a big, horrible dislike for that, and also a dislike. So horrible lore inaccuracy and a dislike. And also, I'm not quite sure why it's not changing my thing. Hold on, let me refresh it real quick. There we go. Excuse me. Sorry, everyone. I forgot, since I lost internet connection for a minute, it messed up my connection to my phone for doing scorekeeping. All right, continue on. So she's caught in the ocean, and it's like, okay, so you're gonna die. So again, that's where we gave a dislike and a lore dislike. So let's move on here let's get through this real quick here. Again, doesn't make any sense. I know a lot of my friends and family also told me they didn't like this. What is she gonna do? Like, everyone is like, this is silly. Like, everyone I've heard say this is silly. There's very few people have been like, oh, I love that part. I'm talking about jumping in the water and being in the middle of the ocean, okay? I'm not talking about when we get to the raft, okay? So then she just starts swimming. And she's like, oh, yeah, you're going to swim. Do you know how far she is, you guys? If she was almost to Valinor, we're talking, like, Atlantic Ocean here. Like, everyone knows our Atlantic Ocean, right? Maybe bigger, okay? So, like, she was almost to North America, and she decided to jump off the boat and swim back to Europe. Like, what? Right? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So anyway, we're moving on. Let's turn on some background music here when we do this. And so now we get to this spot. We get to episode 2. We're going to see Meteor Man, right? Again, Meteor Man, I have... I'm going to give a lore inaccuracy point. Because this character is just so random. So it needs to be, we still at the end of this episode 2, we do not know who this character is supposed to be. We don't know. So I'm assuming he's one of the blue wizards. That's what he should be. Some people were saying maybe it's Gandalf. I'm like, oh, I don't know about Gandalf. It doesn't make sense that he's kind of out of it too, because I mean, he's one of the, they're not out of it when they come to the lore to the world, the Maiar. So, I had a thought, which I'll talk about later. I'll get through it later. But anyway, let's go through step by step here. She goes, oh, don't do it. And then she falls and she realizes it's not hot. So it's almost like it's an illusion. I mean, again, could it be Sauron? This guy doesn't really look like the fair form of Sauron that takes the fair form of an elf. So I don't really think it's supposed to be Sauron. But maybe, because again, the fire does kind of look like an eye. So it could be, I guess. But why would Sauron be out of it? You know what I mean? It doesn't... I'm almost thinking maybe this character's made up. Again, that would be really weird to make up a character with this kind of power and this kind of significance that they point out in the first 2 episodes. And then they show us a shot of really how big he is compared to her, which is very good cinematography. So that's a like, because I like how they show how big he is compared to the Hobbit. So we'll put a like on that. Then you get this whole part where it's really epic, and it's like, he's like, oh, he wakes up, and then fire's going all over the place, and then he falls back to sleep. And it's like, oh, okay. Again, I didn't like or dislike it. I like the fact that she pokes him. I think that was funny. That was, your friend's like, don't touch him, and he's, poke. I like that. That made me laugh. Again, he has some kind of massive power that he's able to, do this, and then boop. And again, this kind of power reminds me a lot, I'll talk about it in a minute, of Gandalf's powers. So I'm kind of thinking he might be one of the Maiar, one of the 5 wizards, unless he's a made-up character they're just going to add in, which I'm not really keen on adding in. But then she's really scared and oh my gosh, and her friend's like, what the heck? And anyway, yeah, so it's a really cool scene, as in the fire and the whole, it looks very real. Like, everything looks very real. So that's a positive for me, right? Again, I already gave a like, so I'm not going to give another thing for that. But, yeah, it's good. And then we got Mr. Grumpy Old Hobbit here, who, again, I don't know, guys. I don't really super like his character so far, at least in the first 2 episodes. He's just kind of like the shaman, I guess, of their prehistoric, not prehistoric, but like, you know, uncivilized hobbits that are just nomads that travel around. I don't know about the hobbits, you guys. I really don't. I'm going to be honest. Some of them are endearing, but I'm going to go ahead and just put another lore and accuracy. I know I gave it for episode 1, but hobbits shouldn't be here, you guys. Hobbits shouldn't be here. But he is funny. For comedy reasons, he's funny. Like, and the other hobbits, they are funny. I liked how he's like, whoop, whoop, right? And then, like, they, like, take the the guy, Meteor Man, in, like, a wheelchair up the hill. Okay, this part, I actually thought it was pretty funny. Like, I like it. They're like, we're going to bring him, and they're like, shows how tiny they are again, which, again, I like that. Again, I'm going to give a lore, not a lore thing. We're just going to give a like for the fact that, I like this whole part. And then they, like, drop him and he rolls down the hill. It's a little slapstick, but I actually thought it was kind of funny. Like, it was a little bit of comedy relief kind of thing. But, and then, you know, how big he is in the Hobbit house, you know, that kind of thing. They have a little conversation, which is fine. She's basically adventurous. Like, you know, they're trying to do like Bilbo and, you know, Frodo. And then again, I don't know what this character will be. I'm assuming he'll be one of the blue wizards is my guess. Because he's... Why are you doing this, Nori? Again, why is her name Nori? But we already gave a negative point for that. I can't walk away till he's safe. Okay, all right. Well, you're a good pedestrian, or you're a good she's a good Samaritan, I guess. Is the idea going on here? Okay, she's gonna help the person she has no idea about. All right. Well, might be crazy. Hope it's not Harfoot's. All right. So now we're gonna jump back to this scene that we know that the place got destroyed, right? And basically, we have this whole place has been destroyed, and all the people are gone. There's dead animals, but there's no people. And he looks down, and there's they go into the. I laughed because they went to the front door, even though the whole building was broken. They walked in the front door that was still standing. And she's like, "We don't know." And then he decides he's gonna go down into the hole. So, all right, this is one that I disliked. So here comes a dislike. Boop. From a normal perspective, he tells her to go back and warn her village, right? This is her where she was born village, and she came from the other one, right? Where we already saw her kid and the whole little thing at episode 1. She goes back, tells them, warn your village to get out of here, right? Instead of him going, which would have made more sense because, you know, but with her, because what if she gets attacked now from whatever attacked this village? But anyway, besides that point, he says he's going to go down the hole, and he's going to go towards wherever they were. So you'd think he would jump down the hole and go towards the village to try to find whatever's digging, right? Which they explain that it's something they think is digging. And if you remember in the first episode, the kid is really upset because he can't sleep because he keeps hearing rats underneath the floorboards. Well, that was actually kind of a cool little, like, oh, that's scary. But he jumps in and he goes the other way. He goes towards where they came from. So he's leaving this village and the other village that he's supposed to guard, and he's going the other way, down a little tiny tunnel that I don't know how he's going to fight anything anyway in that small quarter. I know he's an elf, but like when you see, let's jump farther. You'll see when he jumps down, he's like, it's a little tiny tunnel. Like, I mean, it's tiny. I mean, it's just, you know, you can't stand. You have to go along in it. So I don't know about that. So again, anyway, that's why I got a dislike. I didn't like that part. So now here's the next one. We're going to jump to something that I really did enjoy. This beautiful scenic shot of Eregion right here. Or Eregion, as Celebrimbor says it. But again, I've heard it said both ways. There's the shot. You guys, this is a lore plus for me. Awesome. It's just, this is awesome. All right, so again, there are big rivers near it, and they're near the Misty Mountains that are a couple miles away, where Khazad-dum is. But this is the Elven Smith place. This is where the Rings of Power will be forged in this place. and he wants to build a tower. Well, we'll get into that in a second. Anyway, again, love it. This is just fantastic, okay? And then we see this. Oh, okay. I have to, just for this hammer, it's getting a like, and it's getting a lore thing, okay? So it's the smithing hammer of Feanor, right? And they talk about it, and who crafted the Silmarils. And this is the hammer, right? And they have a whole conversation about it. That's awesome. This whole conversation is great because it does bounce off real lore, right? With Celebrimbor, which again, why I'm giving this lore point, right? I want that. Please be a replica, guys. Make a replica. Whoever made it, because I'll buy it. Because I want that back here on my shelf. So anyway, yeah, this is really huge. It's really awesome. But then their conversation is great. This whole scene is awesome. Strange, isn't it? And he's like, true creation, like, he seems like, I like how they portray, I mean, I have such a hard time with that word sometimes, portray Celebrimbor. I like that he's trying to create things to help and make the world better, right? Which is how he is in the lore. So again, why I gave a lore point for this whole part, because it's huge. In fact, I'm tempted to give another lore point, because the hammer itself, I feel like, deserved one lore point. This one really does. I'm giving another one. Sorry, that's my opinion, but it's my choice. Another lore point because I really love his whole conversation and how he acts, and he really wants to help make the world even a better place, right? Elrond's down to help him, and he goes, he knows, oh, I just haven't been perfect. He cannot but stare into the depths. He talks about Morgoth when he stole the Silmarils. And it's really cool. It's really cool, the whole conversation. And then, he was faced with his own evil reflection when he got blood on the... And then he was like, you know, Morgoth was like, oh. Anyway, that whole... You gotta watch it for yourself. It's a really good part. It's fantastic. So then he says... And of course, Elrond doesn't touch it, but Celebrimbor just picks up the hammer because he's this old, ancient. It shows the difference between Elrond respecting, not touching the amazing, creator, and Celebrimbor just picks it up because he is one of the best smiths in all of Middle Earth now. You know, that it's alive. He said, a glint off the far horizon. So now they do something that I don't remember if it's in the books. I don't think it is, but it makes sense. So this is something that I like. Okay, I'm going to put a like for this. He talks about he wants to create a forge, like a tower that's like a forge where he can use heat in it to create the hottest of flames, which would make sense to make the Rings of Power. So that's what his goal is, and he shows Elrond some plans for this tower, right? He shows him some plans. This whole part was really, really good. This is one of the reasons the second episode was just so good for me. So he shows him this, and they're like, oh wow, he's like, that's really cool. He's like, how am I gonna do this though? I don't have the workforce from Gil-galad. We don't have enough elven smiths to do this. And he says, I need to do it by the end of this year. So then Elrond says, well, have we looked out of the confines of our own race? And he see the forge will be as pure as starlight, he says. My lord, that would require... Anyway, and he says, there he goes, he says that. And he kind of does his eye, like, Celebrimbor, like, what? And then they show us a map again. So they do show us some more maps in the second one. Let's see if I can get it. And he does his eye, and then we see this. And we see the distance from Eregion or Eregion down there up to Khazad-dum. Wow, you know how excited I got when I saw this part? I was real excited. I was like, please don't ruin the dwarves, right? I was like, Khazad-dum better be good, right? So anyway, he basically travels up. We get some beautiful scenic shots. Again, enjoy. And again, a lore point just for... I'm getting a lore point because of the scenery outside of Khazad-dum. It's obviously a spot in... This is a spot in New Zealand in real life. But it just... Look at that mountain, those waterfalls. Does that not make you think the Misty Mountains in the lore and Khazad-dum? Does it not? I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to find someone who probably would disagree with me. That doesn't look like a Misty Mountain range. That is so cool to me, okay? And then you can see them down here, and then it's really well done because they almost... It looks like they're really there. And that look at that background! So they come up... Just them, which I think is kind of like, you think they come with like a procession, but again, Celebrimbor and Elrond are both pretty strong fighters, and there's really not really a lot of evil right now, so it kind of portrays them traveling together. It's not too far to travel. Maybe their elven procession's a little farther up there to protect them. I don't know, but I'm gonna do a like because I liked that they came just the two of them. I actually thought that was cool. And then they come to the door, right? And Elrond says, and then he compliments the dwarves. He said, I've heard they've, built their home up since late, Celebrimbor. And he says, he's like, Elrond's like, you must have a great appreciation for them. And he's like, yes, they're sculpting. They love to take things and create like he does. And I love that, seeing the respect between the elves and the dwarves at this time. They brought it out. And I was just like, yes. And again, that makes me so excited that gets another lore correct point, because they did have a lot of respect for each other. And if you know in the lore later, when the fight happens, which it might happen in this series, when Sauron attacks Eregion to claim all the rings, and the elves leave and try to retreat, Elrond's there helping lead a force to fight. This is later, and Khazad-dum actually come out to help, which would make sense that they have a good relationship. And by the way, they're going to show here, which I don't think this is part of the lore, but it makes sense. Elrond has a decent relationship with Prince Durin. Okay, so which it's a great way they portray the friendship. I loved it so much. Okay, and I'll talk about the things I disliked, the issues though, that the Dwarven lore too. But let's go into it. This whole part I was geeking out on this whole part because I really liked this. This was really well written. The words were well written. Everything that happened, seriousness with a little bit of comedy. Okay, so the respect of one who cares for the aged partner. He's complimenting the dwarves. They're reminiscing how cool the dwarves are, right? And Elrond's like, he'll welcome us with open arms and horns blasting. Remember back to what Gimli says before they go into the fellowship? And he's like, molten beer, fresh off the bone, and he's like, horns blazing, where he talks about his cousin Marlin, right? So I'm going to put an enjoyed for that, because the whole part I enjoyed because it reflected that part. So then they go in, right? And tables filled with salted pork, and he's like doing all this stuff, and then he says, we are Lord Celebrimbor from Eregion, he says, and Elrond of Linden, right? And he says, enough meat peel to fill the Anduin, right? Like they have all this awesome everything. And the dwarf pops his head out, right? We seek an audience with Prince Durin, he says, right? And then it pops out, and the dwarf goes, it is Elrond of Rivendell. And then basically the dwarf slams the thing shut and goes, no. That's it. And then he's like, and Elrond's like, oh, my apologies, blah, 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 says something else. And then the dwarf goes, we've already had a verdict, right? You gotta go watch it. This is really good. This is hilarious. And he's just like, and Celebrimbor like looks at Elrond like, what? Like, really? And there's like a little look at each other. He's like, huh. Elrond's kind of like taken aback. He's like, that's weird. I'm like best friends with this guy, right? The prince. So he says, I invoke the right of Singi Tarkrog. All right, whatever. He says it. Again, I don't know if this is probably made up for the show, The Rings of Power, but basically it's some way to get in. We don't know what it is yet. And Celebrimbor is kind of worried for him. He's like, is everything okay? Because they come marching out, right? And he's like, oh, is that okay? He's like, I'll rejoin you in Eregion later, he tells him. He said, give me a few days to work my whatever magic kind of thing, right? With being very good at talking, right? Kind of thing. And his friend. So he gets taken in. The dwarves, I think it's cool that they have actual actors that it looks like they have actual like midget or dwarf people from reality playing as the dwarves here to show the difference in size, which I really liked. I also love the dwarves' masks, okay? So right here, look at the masks. So see how they have the actual beard covering? You guys, lore accurate. These are described in the Second Age. They had those that protect their beards when they're fighting dragons, right? Yet their beards still keep coming out farther. But it's to protect against singeing fire, usually, right? They probably tucked their beards in if they were actually fighting dragons. But these are probably more ceremonial guards at the front door. But, like, they look so good. His face expression is great because he's seeing Khazad-dum when he comes in this hallway for the first time. And I have the same expression. And it's just, you guys, Khazad-dum, it gets a like and a lore accuracy. Because Khazad-dum, it's what I was hoping. And we saw parts of it in the trailer. But then you see these gorgeous shots. The rock looks really well done. It looks like they're really walking there. I mean, you can sort of tell there might be some CGI, possibly, but it's really, really hard to tell. The rock veins going through how they carved the rock with the waterfalls and plants growing everywhere. And then they show this next shot, right? They show this. And he exclaims something like amazing, right? Like he's just amazed because he's never been here before since they've done so much, right? And they show these shots, and then we see this shot, right? It's pretty. Let's see. And get them all. So we get this shot. Remember I was talking about the mirrors? And I always talk about those in Lotro. How like the dwarves had entire water systems and light systems and air filter systems. And they have everything, right? They love their underground, but they still want to have light for plants. So they've got all these vines growing. And then they'll show another shot of, let's see. They show another shot of, and they show the mirror move. Right up there, and this guy's doing like a beard. He's like doing his beard, right? Like a barber shop, and then there's a dwarf here and stuff. I am gonna drop a lore negative though for the female dwarves not having full beards. Okay, so they're gonna get a that and a dislike because that's something that really bothered me about it. I understand why they did it, but again, we get another shot of they show a lot of different shots here. Where's the good shot, though? I want the good shot. Let's see if I can get it. It doesn't want to give me the shot. Is it right here? Come on, give me the shot. There, that one? Ah. There it is. There's a good shot. So again, they show all of Khazad-dum real quick, and it's just, look at those shots and all the dwarves. And they've got some like procession happening with a big rock down there, and like, it's just, you guys, it's so good. It's so good. Again, one thing I did notice with the one Disa, the main dwarf, we'll talk about in a minute, she does have a little bit of a tuft. So she does have a little bit of a beard, but again, I think they did that for other reasons, which I won't go into here. I went into on my other videos in the past, but look at these shots of Khazad-dum, man. It's just the coolest, you guys. The absolute coolest. And they have a shot of the gardens, which you can see here in the little bottom preview, but there it is. They show you a real quick shot of the gardens where they're using the mirror to put light onto the gardens that they're working, that have like water systems, look to pull up water up these little valves. Like, that is just so cool, you guys. Hence why I gave it like and lore things. So now we're gonna pop into this reason they're all chanting. They're obviously having fun. I don't really like, someone made this comment and I kind of agree with them. It's a little bit too silly, but I mean, they kind of did that in Peter Jackson's too. They kind of like made the dwarves a little more silly with like their like events. So I'll give a dislike there, but also I got to give a like for the men with their beards and like their get up and their armor, and the women's like get up, what they look like, where they're like a little bit clean, but they're a little bit dirty. And like, look at this guy's beard. Look at it. It goes all the way to the floor. You can't see it behind my thing, but it's just, so that's a like. That's a like. So that's huge. That's really cool. All right. So anyway, then we go in here, and then Durin comes in, who looks just, oh man, Durin's character, you guys, like, just his character in general, his acting, the way he looks, he's awesome, you guys. He's just, I was blown away happy about that. So one thing we do have to do a counter though is the fact that lore-wise, there are never two Durins at once, because they in their lore, when they believe a new Durin was like reborn, basically, they would name that person Durin. So his father being Durin, and him too, they did it more like a regular succession line of kings, which I understand why, for simplicity of people watching who don't know the lore. But I am going to give a lore descent, not right, because that, and yeah. So, and then the silliness, I'm going to give a negative, just because I didn't like the silliness of the event so much. Part of it I liked. I didn't totally dislike this event, but part of it, so I'm gonna give it a like too, because I did like the fact of his acting here. It's really good, because he seems almost like making fun. He's like, the elf came to blah blah blah, and like Elrond's kind of like a little bit confused because this is his old friend, right? He's wondering why he's being so like stern about this, right? So, and I thought it was going to be a drinking contest, and it ends up being that they use pickaxes to break rocks or hammers, right? Until one of them runs out of energy, and then basically he gets banished if he doesn't win. If he does, he gets to ask one boon of the dwarves, right? One thing they can do for him. So again, I really liked all the dwarves in here. I liked how they made them all be here for the event. Like, they're all kind of excited for this event that probably doesn't happen that often, right? We shall break stones until one of us can break no more, he says. All right. And this guy, man, he looks a lot like the Dwarven actor, that one guy right here. No, not that guy. Well, you can see him here in the little preview at the bottom. It doesn't like to go right where I am. So Elrond, he takes off his cloak. Elrond takes off his cloak like, okay, let's get down to business kind of thing. Does the elf understand? And then basically Elrond goes, yes, I'll be banished. I get it, right? He's a little bit confused why Durin is being so stern with him. The elf does, right? He says. So then we get a little cool horn blown, and then they bring in rocks, and they start breaking the rocks. Again, something that I have noticed in both episodes, and I just have to... That's a great shot, though. His gear and get-up looks awesome, too, by the way. I really like it, so I'm going to give him a like for that. Something that I disliked, that I noticed a lot, is that I don't mind the fact that the Durin's folk are all described as very light-skinned, very Viking in nature, right? Like Durin right there. But they don't explain where there's a couple in here and there who are very dark-skinned, which, again, you guys, I'm not being, right, you know, the word. I can't say it on YouTube, but you know what I'm saying. I don't mind that, right? Like, again, the elf guy, as much as it doesn't really make sense, maybe he has a lot of sun, you know, but I like his character so far. And also, I will talk about this in a minute, I was very happy to say that I very much enjoyed the Disa character, at least in episode 2 so far. I have not watched the next episode yet because it's not out yet at the time of this video, me making this. But I would just prefer it if they gave us some kind of like, oh, well, they were a migrating group of dwarves from a different clan. Because you guys, there are other groups of dwarves, clans, that, like, so for example, the hobbits, some of the Harfoots were darker skinned. So that makes sense to me. There's nothing wrong with that one. The dwarves, there were dwarves, the Zelruka, as we know in Lord of the Rings Online, and the Eastern dwarves, the Ironfoots, who were probably darker skinned because they lived in the hot south and they lived in Mordor and stuff like that. They didn't live probably always in the mountains like Durin's folk does, always underground, right? Which again, they don't get as much sun, lighter skin. It's a simple melatonin thing, guys, with skin. Okay, I don't know why there's always this issue with like I don't give a darn about that. I care about the individual. I don't care about what any one person looks like, right? That's just I've never been like that. My whole family has always treated everyone the same. So, but there's a thing with storytelling that if you change things, it's kind of like why did you change it, right? Like again, I wouldn't take someone else's story and just change the people because I'm like, I want them to look like the same as me. So I'm going to change all these people, even though it's a story from, let's say, Africa or Asia or something, one of their histories. I wouldn't just change it because that, for one, that doesn't make sense to their story, right? So again, Tolkien is how he based it on, but Tolkien has many different types of people in his world. You just have to do it in a way that makes sense, which really all they have to do is say, oh, these were a traveling group of dwarves that came from Mordor or from the Eastern, the Iron Fist clan, and they joined the Durin's clan. Problem solved. So anyway, but yeah, again, I am going to give a lore inaccuracy to that whole genre, not just the dwarves, but the fact that they're not explaining it for all of them. The hobbits give a pass. Humans, of course, they're the Haradrim, Easterlings, there's all in between. Nomenorians, the Western men, the Rohirrim are technically here, the Eothade already, but yeah, those are all in between and stuff. But Durin's folk is very clearly done that, and the elf one really doesn't make sense on that area. But again, you guys, I'm not being... The actor did a fantastic job so far. Both Disa and the elf, Rondir, right? Yeah. I like both their characters, even though they're made-up characters. I like them both, and the actors both did a really good job. The actress and the actor. They both did a really, really excellent job. So, again, I don't care about that stuff. But what I've been saying from the beginning is what I care about in the Rings of Power is the fact that they don't bring in real issues from our world. And so far in these first 2 episodes, I didn't feel like they brought in a lot of issues from our world to this one, okay? But I would also like a little bit of explanation to make sense for genealogy reasons of backgrounds of people. Just a little bit, right? Again, I can overlook it and still enjoy the show, but it just kind of feels like they're just being stuck there for the sake of being stuck there. And it's like, That doesn't, it doesn't seem kind to people that they're trying to maybe represent too. Because I feel like they should have a real reason to the story. Does that make sense? I really feel like it would be kinder to everybody if we're like, oh, this is the reason they're there. Oh, cool. Okay. That makes sense. Even though it's an adaptation, that totally makes sense, right? And again, everybody else looks great, but it doesn't make sense why there's always like, in medieval culture, we didn't have as much mixing as we do. For example, I love the fact where I live in California and America, we are quite a mixing pot. We have every background here, and I love that. I think that's really cool. But when it comes to medieval era, people, it was harder to travel, so there wasn't a whole lot of mixing that happened. There might be like one person from some faraway land in a town, but everyone else is going to be pretty similar looking, right? Because that's just basics of travel back then, right? Today, we can travel all over the world, even, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and again, I'm more than most people love everybody, right? So don't say comments in the comments about that I'm being bad or something. It's like, no, you guys, I like the characters actually. I'm just saying lore inaccuracy that I gave the point that I think they should have explained that to us, and I disliked the fact that they didn't. So dislike for that. So anyway, let's keep going. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that. I don't want to get too into that because it just gets to be silliness at that point from all sides because people start getting too upset about it both ways. So again, I just would have liked a little more clarification of why to make it more sense with the storyline. But look at that awesome ram horn. Oh, and Durin is so cool. And I love that they're like, ah, they're all like really happy that he gets it. Like, that was awesome, that whole part. Okay, now we're going to flip past. Again, I still like that part, okay? Still loved Khazad-dum. It's my favorite part, but I had to touch on that other thing based on the backgrounds of everyone with genealogies, okay? Because it just had to be. Of course, there's going to be some mixing and a one or two here and there with things like that, but make it make sense. Why? That, you know what I'm saying? Because again, in other stories, we don't do that always. It just seems like it kind of one way sometimes when it comes to that. And that's not how it should be either. Again, I'm totally down having everyone of all backgrounds, views, and looks in a show. I just think that it should be in a way that respects the story and lore still, no matter who wrote the story and lore, whatever story it is. It doesn't have to just be this one. It could be any movie or show, right? All right, anyway, moving on. So then we get her. She's going to check on her hobo friend here. Come on, he looks like a hobo, right? But I actually like his character so far. So she runs through some awesome visual areas of New Zealand. Really, look at that. It's a great shot. Really cool. And then she gets over him, and he's scribbling, right? He's like drawing these marks on the ground. And then he sees her, and he gets really like scared and upset. And then he starts roaring, and the trees and everything starts getting dark. This makes me reminisce and remember of Gandalf, right? Now, could this be Gandalf? Well, Gandalf took the form of an old man when he came and said in the lore. So it doesn't really make sense that he'd be a middle-aged man and then later take the form of an old man. So my guess is this is one of the Blue Wizards. That's my guess. Could be Radagast maybe, but again, I don't think so. I think he's one of the Blue Wizards. That is my guess. Or maybe he's Sauron in a different form, if Sauron can change form. I mean, Sauron turned to a werewolf at one time, so he can really change form if he wants to. But anyway, this part was actually kind of cool. I mean, I'm going to give it a like just because I was like, well, that was kind of cool, right? So then she says, no, I'm a friend. And he's like, oh, okay. And he calms down. And then she gives him some snails. Again, I did like this part. I thought it was funny, even though it really just has nothing to do with anything in the story right now, lore-wise. But it's just their side plot. Again, this is a side plot that they're making up for the adaptation. She gives him a snail, shows him how to eat it. It's disgusting. I'm not really one for escargot, thank you very much. But he tries it, and then he like starts eating the whole snail with the shell. And she's like, wait. And she's like, oh, okay. And he just eats away. And then you get this part where he says, oh, my daughter will help. But his daughter's not there. She's off helping the Mr. Meteor Man, right? Who we don't know who his name is. And he's like, okay, fine, I'll come over and help you with that, right? And then she talks to him a little bit more. He starts doing little scribbles in the sand, trying to communicate with her. Again, weird to me if he is one of the Maiar that he can't communicate. So I'm going to do a dislike for that because I don't think that is a thing. Like, I from everything I've studied with the lore, they can communicate when they get there. They don't have to relearn the language or something of that area. So anyway, he's scribbling. He's getting more and more frustrated about it. And then her dad's trying to lift something, and when this happens, is basically what happens is the thing breaks. What happened? His stick breaks, and right when his stick breaks, her dad falls over and breaks his ankle. Was that because of him? I don't think so. Okay, so that I think that was just a coincidence to be a dramatic pause and change, right? Like really dramatic. Whoa, right? I think that's what that was supposed to be. I'm pretty sure. So then we'll keep going through here. So yeah, it's really terrible. It's so painful looking how he breaks his ankle. I've broken my ankle like that really badly, where I broke all 3 bones. So I understand how painful it is, and it's not fun. It's not fun mainly later though. Right when it happens, it hurts, but it's not too bad. It's once it swells, then it's bad. Swelling is the enemy. Excuse me. Side note. Moving on. I'm trying to help you. She says to the guy, "This is a friend." All right. It's okay. What happens there? Then she's like, I like this part that she's like, "I should have been there," to her dad, and the dad's like, "Oh no, it's fine." The parents don't blame her for it, so that's a like in my mind, because I hate it when they do things like that. So I like that they didn't blame her, but then she's feeling guilty because she wasn't there to do that thing that the dad did. And then they're doing chatter about something again. They're chattering about worried about prophecies or whatever, or omens, right, of bad. I'm not gonna dislike it or like it. I was just, I don't care. Now we're back to Galadriel. She's swimming through the ocean. She's swimming. Look at her swim. She's amazing. She's been swimming. She's amazing. She's been swimming for hours, aimlessly in the ocean. She's gonna die. Okay. Again, I'm disliking it one more time. Sorry. I know I already disliked it, but it's getting another dislike because it's annoying. All right. So it doesn't make sense. But anyway, then we get a shot of, she's still got her dagger on her. Now you get a shot of these people adrift. Okay. So these are people adrift. She sees it. She's like, "Oh, help, help." And they help her, and some guys don't want to bring her on, but this lady sticks up for her and brings her on, right? What a good Samaritan she is. you know why I'm chuckling in a moment. But anyway, they're all different looking, all different backgrounds, because it makes sense, because no doubt they were a cargo ship or something. Maybe some of them from Umbar and some of them from Numenor. Umbar, again, is right next to Harad. Lots of people of all different backgrounds and all different groups of people that probably come there for trading. So they were probably all on a ship together, which makes sense that they'd be a mix of people. And then she gets pulled onto the ship. She kind of covers her ears before she comes up. She's really tired. The lady gives her some water. The guy says, "No, questions first." He starts talking to her. One person's crazy on the ship. Seen what? What did you see? They're like, what are you talking about? And then the one guy puts her hair back, which we see in the trailer, and sees she's an elf, right? "Move your hand," she says, right? And then suddenly, the moment this lady realizes she's an elf, she flips on a dime, man. She's like, "Oh, you lied to us." It's like, what? She just got on the ship 30 seconds ago. I didn't say anything, right? I'm sticking up for Galadriel here, because that's what the heck? This person is terrified and basically going insane because of what creature made them afloat on a barge ship. So this person sees a sail. "Help us," right? Because they're stuck on this thing. And the other guy's like, "Be quiet. That's not our ship." And then one part that I do like, the only part I like in the ocean, is when we get to see this creature. And he calls it a great worm. But in Tolkien's books, he describes that there are a sea monster that's a type of dragon, right? Real briefly. But I like it that they did that to a nod. So for me, this is getting a lore plus. I like it. I liked it, okay? I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. I didn't like really how short. They didn't really show that much. It was more of mysterious, but maybe that was for good reason. But now they're like, "Oh, where'd it go? Where'd it go? It went underwater," right? And then basically the lady goes, "You brought it to us," right? After she was just nice to Galadriel, and she shoves her off the ship. Shoves her in the water. It's like, wow. Went from being really defending her and bringing her on board to now that she knows she's an elf, just pushes her off, right? So, I'm going to do a dislike for certain reasons there, because I kind of feel like I know they're trying to show probably if that lady is from Harad, she probably doesn't have the fondest feelings of elves at this time from stories, right? If they did ally, if her particular group of people from Harad allied with Sauron, so there is some sense there. But also, I just didn't think it was necessary, and I thought it was kind of like weird that they were so extreme about that. So yeah, I was like, I'm not sure about that one. Excuse me. Had a little air there. So anyway, she falls in. It actually ends up saving her, which is like kind of touche, silly. This guy, who is also another new character who is made up, breaks off a little piece of the boat for himself, the raft, and then right when he pulls away, she pops out to swim away, and they get crushed by the creature. Just whale slap, but like meaner than a whale slap. Even though you should be careful of whales, they might do it by mistake. They also show a shot of her seeing it underwater. There's it crushing their ship and how big it is, which is actually kind of cool. And then she has a look of underwater. She sees its tail has a bunch of stuff in it. Me and my friends were laughing because we were thinking, oh no, don't make it oh, it's just hurt. If I pull out its wound, it'll love us forever. They didn't do that, thank goodness. So, whew, I still like the sea monster. I would have been very disappointed if they'd done that. Then he helps her out, and she's like, why are you helping me, kind of thing. And he's like, you know, they have a little bit of a conversation. He gives her water, so he's actually like nice about it, blah blah blah. I'm Halbrand, right? Very Gondorian name, or Numenorian name for now. Future it'll be Gondorian. So now they're breaking rocks. Elrond gets tired. Dwarves are like, oh, look at that guy's beard. Awesome beard right there, man. Again, the dwarves are just looking great. The one reason I love this second episode so much was because of the Khazad-dum. It was just so well done. And Eregion, they were just so perfect in my mind. So he's like, Durin. They're like, and then he says, the dog may bark at the moon but can't reach it. But anyway, Elrond gave up. He got tired, I guess. Or he did it on purpose. And he says, perhaps your lordship will escort me to the exit. Here's where it gets good, guys. So they're going up this awesome, for one, oh, look at how cool that is. You can see the mines down there. You can see there's cities to the left. Gardens here are coming up, and there's a waterfall, and then these are elevators. This thing right here is an elevator. Like, all right? I love this. It's so cool, you guys. The elevators are just amazing. So then, remarkable, I never dreamed to find your city so changed, he tells Durin. Durin is really stern, right? I'm just going to give you a little bit of background why I love this part, okay? Like, love this part, okay? This whole scene is awesome. Basically, this scene shows... I'm going to give it a lore plus, and I'll tell you why right now. This scene shows the time dilation, a time difference between an immortal elf, sort of immortal, and dwarves. Even though dwarves live a long time, they still don't live as long as immortality, right? And Durin says, well, you missed my wedding. He just like bursts out after Elrond's like, what? Right? Like, why are you so upset? He's like, you missed my wedding, and you missed the birth of my child. Both of them, right? And he's like really upset. His acting is so perfect, right? It's like a friendship thing. And Elrond's like, oh man. He's like, I'm so sorry. Like, right? He says it in a good way. Elrond says it like, he doesn't say sorry. He goes, congratulations to him, right? And he's like, I would really like to apologize to your family, Elrond says, which is very clever, right? It's very Elrond, right? Very clever words still. And then he's like, okay, right? Durin's like, and then you leave, right? So the whole part is just, it's, guys, A+. This whole part is really good, if not an S+. So they have this whole conversation. The true purpose of your visit, you want something, right? He thinks he wants something. And again, they do want something. They want to work with the dwarves, but it was Elrond's idea. He thinks it's the king sending him, the King Gilgalad, to get stuff out of him. He's like, I journeyed here to see my friend, whom I've greatly missed. Which is true, in a sense. He didn't lie. He's like, but the birth of my children, 2 of them. And he's really upset, right? But again, he said it in a very dwarven way. It wasn't like a wimpy way. I liked it how they did it. 20 years might be a blink of an eye to an elf, but to me, I lived a lifetime, and Elrond's face is perfect. It just dawns on him. Elrond's just like, again, I'm gonna give him another like. Because Elrond's just like, he's like, dang. It's like, I didn't even realize. Like, right? Because Elf's just like, he's like, I didn't realize it was 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, it was so well done, you guys. So anyway, he goes, so what do you have to say? he says, and basically he says, well, congratulations, Elrond says, and I'd like to say sorry to your family, he says, right? And then he's like, oh, okay. So he brings him to his house and he says, you can say sorry and then you're off. You can't stay for dinner, right? He basically says that. So now we're getting a little bit of a thing going. Elrond's facing him, right? This is really good. And he says, Durin didn't know, right? And then Disa comes in and she's like, is this the Elrond? Right? And she actually is like, again, her character in this episode, in episode 2, I actually really liked it a lot. I was blown away. So a lot of my worries that she was kind of, I remember I was saying I was upset a few things she said about the movie as an actress herself. She, as an actress playing the part, did a fantastic job, you guys. So gonna give it a like, because I actually was blown away at how her acting was really good. And I love the fact that they have this thing going where they're like a dwarven family, and he goes, well, he's not staying for dinner, and she hugs Elrond really tight, like crushes him, right? And then she's like, he's staying for dinner. He's like, no, and she like gives him the Wi-Fi, right? And he's like, right, Durin. And I love the whole interaction is great. It's fantastic. So her acting was really, really good. Durin's, both of their acting was really, really good. I think what I made the comment, my concerns that her ideas were just her ideas and not the actual script of the show, was probably correct, at least in this episode 2. We'll see in the future. We'll see in the future what happens. Episode 3 and stuff. This is her eyes. She's like, he's staying for dinner. And he's like, oh, okay, all right, right? So he's like, and then their kids' names are Gerda and Gamli. A lot of people thought it was Gimli, but no, it's Gamli. Yeah. All right. So again, very generic names, but then they go in here, their kids are running around, they bring them upstairs with these giant helmets because they're like playing with his helmets, right? And then Elrond looks and sees this beautiful tree, right? That's like in the light of this like dim, it's pretty light, but stuff. So this whole conversation is fantastic. Okay, I can't tell you the whole thing. You got to watch it for yourself. But I'm gonna just tell you right now, it's a like from me. This whole thing was awesome, and lore-wise, how the house looks, I'm giving a lore accuracy point too, because it looks like a room that would be fit for a king of the dwarves. There's gems on the wall, the gold everywhere. They have this big, beautiful table. I love it shows how big he is compared to them. And then also, they have the beautiful melon tree. She basically tells Elrond that Durin has traded that seed that apparently Elrond gave to him from the tree in Lindon. Kind of like the white tree of Gondor, but a different tree, right? This is a melon tree, kind of thing. She says he treats it like a third child. So now Elrond realizes that Durin really did miss him and really was taking care of the tree that he gave him, but that he's just bitter because Elrond missed so much about his life, right? So anyway, this whole conversation is good, and then Elrond says, I'm going to leave. And again, it is interesting how they gave her some context to make her eyes look different. It made her look very cool and Dwarven. And again, if you look at the sides of her, she actually has fluff on the sides of her cheeks. So she does have, and on the chin, just a little tiny bit. So she does. They just didn't show it in the posters. Again, it's not really enough for me to be like, that's a beard. But they do show that they have some inkling of having a beard, right? And that her big hair. So that's a plus. I'm going to have to give it a plus. And again, her acting was really good. So I really enjoyed it with Durin. They were a good trio, the three of them acting together. And she talks about something about singing, and he's interesting. Some just, random talk, like conversation. And then basically he's still stubborn about it. And Elrond's like, all right, I'll leave. Right. And then he's going to get up and leave. And he says how they met, how these two met. She was like some like surveyor kind of the mines. And she's like, and he kept coming every time, basically. And they have a little husband and wife conversation. It was cute. It was fine. I liked it. And then again, look at that face. He's got a great face. And soon enough, we left with off. And this is where he gets mad. He doesn't want to accept any proposal from Elrond because he's afraid he's going to get the short end of the stick from Elrond. And Elrond's like, okay, I understand. He's really good actor still. Really made me think of Elrond. And then he goes to leave. So he goes to leave. And then she looks at her husband like this like, what? You're just gonna let your friend walk away? Like, it's your friend, right? And then she like gives him the come on, and he goes, fine, I'll hear you out, but I'm still angry, or something. And then they cut to the next scene. But it was really well done. And Elrond smiles, like he's excited that his friend forgave him, kind of thing. He's still like, I'm still grumpy, right? It's really well done. The whole scene is fantastic. All right, so now let's hop to the next scene. Now that I've told you how wonderful the dwarf part was, at least in the second episode. We'll see in the future with the same actors and same parts. We'll see. Again, I'll have a review of episode 3 when it comes out. We get a nod at whatever this symbol is here. There might be some sneak peeks to that later. She kind of sees it. She wants to know where he's from. He won't tell her. He said, I was driven out by orcs. Now she's really interested about his past because, of her weird obsession. Again, dislike obsession. Gets a dislike because the obsession thing is just ridiculous. It just doesn't seem like Galadriel to me. Again, by the way, I'd like to point out, she is a good actress. But what they're giving her to work with is not good. This made-up story and this obsession to find Sauron. Again, maybe they're going to build her into the Galadriel we know from the Lord of the Rings and the books. But she's already pretty old at this point, you guys. She should kind of know, right, at this point. So, anyway. He says whether, and then he won't tell her where he's from, even though he mentions orcs. And then, he's like, that's the first real thing you said to me all the time. And he because she has the ridiculous stubborn issue, and he kind of stands his own ground, which was like, okay, good for you, man. So that was good. I kind of liked his reaction, so I'm gonna give it a like to her dislike of what she was doing. But again, she is still fine. And then they go into showing, and then we have flashback from that. What's her Harbor? Oh, I can't think of her name right now. Again, she's a made-up character. I'll have it sooner or later, I promise. But anyway, she runs back to the village. Again, I liked her character, even though she's made up. And she warns the village, and they don't believe her. And then he basically says, I don't want this kind of silliness talk, blah, blah, blah. All right. And this whole part was fine. This whole part was good. I'm not going to like or dislike it. It was decent. It made sense they wouldn't fully believe her. But now he's at the fire at his house. He hears the rats again. Right? And he freaks out. And he starts banging the wood on the floor, right? And then he looks down the hole. And then, it looks up at him, right? Spoilers. A scary eye looks up at him. And from the hole. And he's like, whoa, right? And it's some kind of goblin or orc, right? Which was awesome. So as a scary part, boom, yes, very cool. So then we pop back to the elf, right? Character. And he's going underground. And again, like I said, he realizes, oh, look, scratch marks. And he finds a claw on the wall, or a nail. And he's like, what is this thing, right? And he realizes, oh, this is something bad, right? And then, again, they haven't seen orcs in a long time, or goblins, right? Probably many, many years. And then he sees something move at the end of the hall, right? And he's like, whoa, what was that, right? And basically, he starts running because he realizes both sides is surrounded. He gets up behind. He comes out of water. He gets up behind this spot, right, to get ready to fight him. And then, of course, we have the jump scare moment where hands all come out behind him and grab him, pull him in. Which I'm gonna say I disliked because he shouldn't have been in the hole in the first place. And he gets up against a wall and there's not a wall behind him. What was he thinking, right? Shouldn't he have checked if there's anything back behind those roots? I don't know. That seems kind of weird for a warrior elf to not realize that, right? To be scared and surprised like that. So now she runs back to the house. She's like, oh my gosh, the house is a mess. What happened, right? It's been attacked, right? She looks around for a second. She looks over. She sees a hole in the ground. She sees her son pop out of he hid in a little cellar thing with scratches on the wall. So something happened, right? And he peeks out and says, shh, to his mom, right? What tells her, run, get help. She looks like she's going to run. He hears creaking. She shuts the door. She looks like she's going to run out the door. And then this is a big like in my book. So I'm going to give this a like. She decides, no, I'm not going to leave my child in a room with some creepy monster that he's awfully terrified of and go get help. I'm going to hide in the other closet, right? So I can help fight whatever it is, right? But yet it's still smart. She didn't just stand there in the open, right? So she gets into the closet. This other closet and hides. This is what we see in the trailer that's so scary. And then we see the scary goblin come out. Again, the goblin looks great. I'm going to give a lore accurate point for being scary, all right? Because her eye, I like how they show her a good shot of her eye and her whites of her eyes there. Basically, he's got a skeleton bone on his head. He's really creepy and messed up and looks almost like he's been sunburned because they can't go in the sun, so he's probably been hit by the sun and been burned. And he's like really, really good. It's really scary. I loved it. It showed, you know why I loved it and why I gave that lore point? Is the fact that it showed that goblins are actually, and orcs are real threats. Because normally in like the Lord of the Rings, we see them as kind of like, they're the mobs, right? And the bosses are the Witch King and all these other scary leaders, right? Or the troll, right? The goblins weren't a big deal. But remember, those were all heroes and massively good fighters. This is a normal lady who's an herbalist healer and her son, right? An orc, one goblin or one orc, whatever this one's supposed to be, is going to be very, very threatening. And I like this whole scene shows that. And that she didn't abandon her son. Or vice versa, the son did not abandon his mom, which I also liked, okay? So I like this whole part. So basically, of course, the only thing I disliked, which I'm going to do a dislike, is that she kind of lost, like, vision of it, and then was like, and surprised when he opened up and broke the cabinet open. But he literally only had one spot to walk in the room. So of course she knew where he was. He was right there in front of her. I don't know. It's just a jump scare for us for the movie, but I didn't find it super scary. Anyway, basically what happens is the boy runs out with that sword he found and stabs that end of that sword into his back. And then when that happens is there's a little bit of issues with the choreography of fighting here that doesn't really make sense. But the mom comes out with a knife, stabs him, and then the creature switches, which is weird. So there's a little bit of choreography stuff here. I like the fact I gave the like for the fighting, but I'm going to give another dislike for the fact of the battle itself, because some of it wasn't really that great. Basically what happened is he switches to the mom. He tries to get the kid runs up a ladder. He breaks the ladder, so he can't follow the kid. Then he switches around to try to get the mom again, and the kid throws a rope down to, like, noose tie him. Right? For one, why did they have a noose in their house? But I think the only logical reason for me would be to defend that is the fact that they have a storage area upstairs where he ran up to, and it would make sense, and they have a pulley system, which the kid uses. Maybe that was the handle to hold and pull stuff up or to tie around things, right? To bring stuff up. Maybe like they tie it around like some heavy jar and bring it up. You know, like there could be some reasonable stuff there. But then the kid pulls it, does a little swing thing on it. But again, it doesn't really make sense. How does he pull it up so well? The mom realistically has a sword under her desk that she pulls out, which makes sense that she would if she's a mom which is a child at a cabin that probably doesn't always have savory people in town. And she stabbed, that's the knife she was holding. She had a knife on her, which made sense. And then she grabbed a sword out from underneath the desk and stabs him. He falls back into the broken stairs. Then the kid pulls the lever, right? Pulls him up. And then basically, it dies, basically, is the point. They finish it off real quick. They don't really show the finish off part. There's the big sword she had. It looked very like cemetery, like it would be in Harad. Made sense. She'd have that kind of sword. That was cool. Getting a like point for that because I liked how that she had actual weapons on her and stuff. And they basically defeated it together with much difficulty. There's a good shot of it. It looks horrifying, which I like because it's gross and disgusting and probably really, really old goblin creature. Again, very horrifying, but I think that was good for a goblin. And then it basically is dead. And then, apparently, that was great. My phone gets an Amber Alert right during my video. Or whatever that was. I'll look at it in a second. Right after the video, we're done. It's like a big giant storm coming, and I don't even know about it. We're doing Lord of the Rings right now. This is important. Important work. Okay. So anyway, she brings the head, and now they all believe her. So they're all going to head to the Watchtower. The elves, remember, left already, right? So that's where we're at with their story. Then we get over here to the storm, and Galadriel, smartly, the waves are so big they're going to fall off. She ties herself to one of the main masts on the thing, which would make sense to do. So I was like, okay, that makes sense, right? Again, I don't really like this part very much, but I was like, okay. So I'm going to say a dislike because I just don't like the part in general, but a like for the point that she tied herself to the mast. But then also the reason the dislike is a lightning bolt hits the mast, the thing holding it, right when she's finished tying, and it falls in the water with her and pulls her down into the depths, right? And he sees it falling, and she's getting pulled into the water, unconscious because a lightning bolt hit her, right? And he goes down there, grabs her sword, cuts her loose of the thing he tied, and basically saves her, brings her back up. And of course, their raft is still above them and not floated farther away, even though it would make sense the water underneath would be moving too. But it just seemed a little bit too this huge storm, right? I don't know. It just, yeah, that's why I give a like for the fact that he does save her, and that it was smart that she was trying to, like, tie herself because she knew she couldn't hold on. The waves hit. But then, like, a lightning bolt hits, and he dives in and saves her, and the raft's still there. Yeah, just a little, not my favorite part of the series. Okay, now we hop over to scary Meteor Man with the hobbits. And this part was actually kind of neat. He talks to the fireflies in their thing, right? And basically, he communicates like Gandalf does with the moth, right? For Gwaihir, to get Gwaihir, the Windlord, the eagle. So I was like, okay, so he probably is one of the Maiar, right? Kind of hoping he's not Gandalf, because that would be really weird, and I don't think I would approve, but we'll see. I think he's going to be one of the Blue Wizards, or Sauron, maybe, I don't know. But maybe he's just a made-up Maiar. We'll find out. This is what I'm really curious about for the next episodes. So then they go up and they do a constellation, and she realizes those things he was drawing in the ground were stars, and she goes, oh, you wanted me to help you find those, and he's like, yeah, like you get it, right? And I'm thinking, I made a joke that maybe it's like the two Blue Wizards were traveling, you know, from heaven kind of thing, meteors, and the other Blue Wizard burnt off, and he's saying that marking is the other Blue Wizard in the sky, his stars. And he's like, I need you to help me find the other Blue Wizard. I've lost my friend, right? Like, that's what was my joke. So anyway, this whole part is fine. I'm not going to like or dislike it because it just seemed kind of random, but it was also kind of neat. And then the fireflies die that he talked to, and he's like, seems really sad about it. So I don't know what's happening there. No idea. So then we flip to, I'm certain of it, he doesn't know. The dwarves. And this is Durin that we've seen now talking to his father. And I believe, I'm going to give a like point to this conversation. They're not really, he wants to kind of trust Elrond more, but he says that Elrond doesn't know anything. And his father's like, you sure that Elrond's like getting the stuff out of you, right? The information out of you. And he's like, I know Elrond for 20 years. He wouldn't be lying, right? So is, you know, perhaps you sensed that you were hiding something kind of thing, right? But anyway, what's the thing they're hiding? They open a box. It's very shiny. They don't show you what it is. I think it is a mithril. What do you guys think? Leave a comment. They found mithril in the Second Age, so lore accurate point right there, and a like, because if that's mithril, I'm really excited, okay? So anyway, and then it shows the kid again. He got his sword back. He's holding the sword, and then suddenly his blood from the wound, like, gets pulled to the sword, like, off his hand, which is really weird. And our whole family was shouting, don't touch it. My friend was like, don't let the blood touch the blade. And then basically the blade, like, grows like a Morgul blade, okay? So it's obviously some kind of evil Morgul blade. You can see it right here growing. It's like with fire. And so kind of cool. And then anyway, she's leaving to the tower with her son. They're leaving. He's bringing the sword. Then they show one more last shot, which is fine. This whole fine. They're leaving. Okay, that's the side plot over here in Harad. They're going to leave to the tower now to defend themselves kind of thing. And then we have Galadriel and Halbrand. And they're on, you know, now they've actually got some sunburn happening. They like, okay, good, finally. Like, she is an elf and heals, but she's going to have some kind of damage from being out there that long. There they are on the raft. Okay, raft, whatever. I don't really care either way. And then they show us a nice little silhouette of someone in the shadows. You can see it. Let's see if I can get him to show it. Show us the guy. It's so fast, it won't show it. Arrgh. Oh, well. They show us a nice silhouette of a guy on a ship. Or you can't see him. The sun's behind him. It's just a silhouette in the ship. He looks very regal with a nice little beautiful cape. I'm guessing it's a Isildur. It's just my guess. From Numenor, with a really beautiful ship. So that is, it's a like, of course, because that would make sense to bring this in. Again, this made-up story that they're doing is bringing us into the actual stuff, right? Like the actual background of everything. So, anyway, I actually did enjoy the second one a lot more. And you notice over there, if we look at my tally thing, there were a lot more I enjoyed, even made-up things, to dislikes, and a lot more lore that I felt was lore accurate to not lore accurate in this episode than the first episode. All right, if you watched my first review. Again, this episode, if I was going to rate it, remember I told you in the last episode, thank you if you watched to the end, by the way. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if I earned it. But this, the episodes together, I gave like an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. I know that's generous on a generous day. On a less generous day, if I'm not feeling quite as generous, I'd give it like maybe a 7 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10, both of them together. This episode, this is the episode reason as a group that I gave that This episode by itself is an 8.5 out of 10 for me. I really enjoyed it thoroughly. If the episodes are this good or better in the next ones, I will be very excited. There's still stuff I disliked, absolutely. Again, if you're someone who dislikes it tremendously or likes it tremendously, please don't get mad at each other. Don't tell me things like, oh, how could you like it? Or how could you dislike it, right? Just tell me, what did you dislike personally, like? You might change my mind on something. I'd love to hear other people's opinions, right? Let's just be civil about it in the comments. Again, I love Tolkien. I love his lore. I do not want his lore messed up. We have to remember these are adaptations, and there could be other ones in the future. Again, if it doesn't go over well, people aren't going to make other ones in the future, right? And again, remember, they don't have all the rights to everything. And I know that's not an excuse. They add stuff from our world and mess things up in other ways. That's not an excuse. But there is a lot of stuff that I think that they're having to kind of play around because they don't have the full rights. So there's a couple side plot lines, right? We have the Harad one with the elf and the lady and her son, that side plot. We have basic Galadriel and her mission, which is a side made-up plot. And then we have the actual lore, which is like Elrond, Celebrimbor, the rings, Khazad-dum, that kind of stuff, right? Gil-galad so far. And now the lore will be Numenor. We'll see how they portray Numenor in episode 3 and 4. So I'm very excited about the next episodes coming out. Again, I totally understand if you totally dislike it, and I totally understand if you're someone that really, really likes it. I'm right in the middle. I'm enjoying it. I think it could be better, right? Like, it could be better. Like, it's mediocre to okay good. Like, that's so far these first 2 episodes. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed them. I liked them, but they're not on par with Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, or even The Hobbit, for that matter. But they are better than what I was expecting. They did not destroy and butcher everything that a lot of people were saying to the hills they would ruin, right? So many people were just like, oh, it's going to be totally a mess and everything, and they're going to bring in all the stuff from our world. And it's like, yes, there are hints of things, but they are manageable. They're not, like, game-changing for me yet. Gotta see episode 3 to make sure of this, though, guys. This is for episode 2. Remember, this review is for episode 2. I can change my mind real quick, depending on what they do with the rest of the season. So I'm definitely not going to give a full verdict. This is my review for episode 2. I have my review for episode 1 if you want to watch it. And you guys have a wonderful day in Middle-earth, my friends. And thank you so much for watching. And again, just so you know, no matter what side you're on, even if you're one of those extreme boats of you really loved it, or you really hated it, or you're right in the middle like me, where you liked some, didn't like others, or, you know, whichever way you lean a little bit more, just know that I totally understand whatever your opinion is on things. I can see from your point of views on both sides of the extreme views why some people are not calling each other names. That I don't agree with. No one calls each other names about anything, either side. But the sides of, like, how could you like it? I really didn't like it. Or how could you not like it? I loved it, right? I'm not talking about the extreme sides of people calling each other names because you're a hater or you love it unconditionally, blah, blah, blah. You know, that's not what I'm talking about. You get what I'm saying. All right. You guys have a great day in Middle-earth. Hopefully that was rather balanced. And, yeah. So I think this episode's like an 8 out of 10 for me, which is pretty darn good, actually. Yeah. All right, you guys have a great day in Middle-earth again. I just said that like 3 times, but thanks for my Patreon. Subscribe button's there if I earned it. If you like this, I won't be doing Rise to War stuff like a ton on the channel. I do mostly Tolkien content, other stuff besides that, but this is relevant right now, so I'd like to do videos on it. And I want you guys have been asking for my opinion because I know a lot of you aren't going to actually watch them. You want to just know what you asked for me to watch them and review them for you. So there you go. There's my thoughts, my friends. And subscribe button's there. Next episode will be up there for my opinion playlist. And Lotra Tail will be over there on top of my little counter. All right, you guys have a great and wonderful day in Middle-earth. And also, don't forget, we're going to have that War of the Rohirrim anime by Lunai Cinema. Hopefully that'll be good too. And remember, guys, it's not the end all. There will always be other adaptations of Tolkien content in the future. Whether we like it or dislike it, that'll be all up to us individually to decide. But we do have Lotro, that's great, and we have Peter Jackson's, which are pretty darn good, even though some people don't like those too. But those are pretty good, and of course the books, Tolkien's books. Cherish Tolkien, everyone. Cherish Tolkien. All right, have a great day in Middle-earth, my friends. See ya.